Hello, our friends, Evolutionary, HEEARTS Patreon family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Yes, welcome back, guys. As you know, we've been delving down some consciousness expansion music, because again, everything is frequency. And so, sometimes it's painful to make a shift, or at least start to include some things that are outside your normal routine. But again, it can be so expansive. And I think probably, I'd say about 15 years ago is when I started to dive down into things like ambient music, listening to mantras, on a regular basis, and just kind of switching myself more consciously away from the things that society is doing into the things that this small niche in society is doing. And I can't think of anything that's been better to keep my vibes higher than that frequency change. It's just doing mantras on a regular basis.
Those are very important. Those are very important for the expansion. It gives, it puts you in a place where you're not in fight or flight. And in the world that we live in today, it's kind of all about being in a place of fight or flight and being stressed and being angry and, looking to make things right. And it's not good for the soul. It erodes the soul, lowers your frequency. It's not good for you personally. It's not good for those around you. It's not good for your children. So, it really serves a great deal of positivity to find a way to quiet the mind. And we have not seen anything better than the mantras. When people are having a really hard time or they're trying to make a change, working with them with the mantras has been very expansive for them, and it really saves them a lot of grief.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's just expanding your consciousness, expanding your awareness, because there are an infinite number of worlds for us to explore, and we are constantly creating our own worlds. So it's not that we no longer listen to hair bands from the 80s. We sometimes, here and there, a little bit. Absolutely. Again, a little bit of something that could be a little irritating in high doses we can tolerate. And it just makes things more enjoyable when we do have a variety. Just like if you like Italian food, if you ate it every single day, you might get tired of it. Well, it's kind of that way with consciousness as we journey through the lokas. Loka means world, but it means more than just a planet. It's kind of a layer of consciousness, as it talks about the many layers and dimensions of the conscious universe. These are worlds and these are states of consciousness at the same time. And it's interesting to note, again, the preserver in the Hindu tradition, who is also the creator in the Vaishnava tradition, as there's many different traditions in Hinduism. Vishnu, he has his own world, which is of a different sort of essence than, say, Krishna, who is taken by tradition to be an incarnation of Vishnu. Krishna has his own world too, which is different. It's of a different substance and structure than Vishnu's. And I thought this was really curious. And I thought especially curious was one part in the Bhagavata Purana where it speaks of this being that's being blessed because he has been someone that shows exemplary heart, love, compassion, understanding. And again, this is all school for the soul. This is schooling of the soul. It's a great opportunity, believe it or not, can be challenging, to come to Earth and to have an embodiment in these heavier densities, because literally this embodiment gives us the chance to create a new world for the soul afterwards. So think of things like the big decision-making moments in your life when you maybe were deciding, were you going to go directly into the workforce? Were you going to go to college? Were you going to go join the military? Whatever it was, were you going to get married? Were you not going to get married? Were you going to have kids right away? Were you going to wait? Were you going to move? Were you not going to move? Were you going to follow in your father's footsteps? Whatever it is, these major decisions, once we leave this physical reality, the soul, the consciousness, can replay and explore from different angles. So you can go back and revisit things and see, well, I wonder how it would have turned out if I went this way instead of that way. And we can explore that. And in fact, sometimes I get the strong feeling that that's what this particular incarnation is for me. It is maybe, not going the route of staying put in a normal, quote unquote, typical life, but actually doing things that might seem, abnormal or a stretch for many, and taking chances and risks in this life. Again, each one of us is on our own unique journey, yet we are sharing this world at the same time together, but we are all also looking at it through a different lens. This is part of the understanding of how consciousness works that would be a complete game changer if the majority of people understood this on the planet at this point in time.
I mean, there's some really wonderful, wonderful teachers and great sages out there. And one thing that I find to be a commonality across the board is there's so much out there. And even though things might seem wildly different in different worlds, never forget that you are still part of them. So whatever world you explore, part of that world lies within you, and that's just fascinating to me.
It absolutely is. And I do love this depiction of one universe among unlimited material universes. So you have, Vishnu dreaming his dream. You see out of his navel comes Brahma, who is thought to be the creator, though he comes out of Vishnu's navel and literally starts creating the material universes. And it's interesting, too, that Brahma, again, when you look to the Abrahamic traditions, the root is Brahma. It's Abraham, Abram, Brahma. You could see how they've taken it from this. And then Sarasvati, so the goddess of wisdom, is Brahma's divine feminine counterpart. And you have Sarah, Abraham and Sarah, Brahma and Sarasvati. Absolutely. And yet you see the different layers to this. And again, some have taken these flat planes, or apparently flat planes, to believe that it's really a flat earth. And in some ways, yes, it is really a flat world, in that our world that we see is holographic in nature, and it is a projection from a 2D viewpoint. But when we're in here, it is absolutely very, very real, and we have that depth perception as well as the illusion of time. But again, time is very relative. As you know, when you're a kid, a 45, 50-minute class could last forever. Or, if you're going to do something you don't want to do, these small periods of time, relatively speaking, seem like eternities. Yet, when you're 60 or 70 and you look back, you think of weeks going by. That's not much time at all. Even years, blinks of an eye. It's just, time seems to speed up as our life gets longer. And the reality is, outside of these bodies, it's even much more different than that, as time is simply a mechanism to allow these brains to function in these worlds.
Mm-hmm. It's something that I think it's good for the soul to explore, to bring expansion and bring other ideas into your realm. these really have a lot of teachings to offer to expand you. So, I mean, that's why I like them, because you can go through them and you can learn some things that are not so subtle, or you can learn some things about yourself. Self-realization is probably the most expansive thing that any one person can do to try to figure out what the heck are you doing in this world. It can be so difficult, and you look around and you say, oh my God, I did not choose this. And I think that's very fair to say too. I hear a lot of people, they say, well, yep, you chose it, you chose it, you chose it. Well, in this body that I'm in right now, I didn't consciously choose something. So when something comes at me that's traumatizing, I mean, it's not so easy just to, I chose it, so, that makes it okay. No, it doesn't make it okay. It's not okay. But we're not told these things. So I think it's about your response to these things. And it's like, how are you going to respond to it based on what you have experienced in this life, as opposed to how higher self might respond to it. But maybe the goal is to close that gap between your response based on possible major trauma or higher self's response. What is higher self going to do? And is that the gap that we want to close?
So we could look at this, and you see this spherical shape here, and you see the Earth at the middle point, actually at the middle point, half below, half above, hellish realms down below, and hellish planets and heavenly planets up above. Again, this is a representation, so to speak, not necessarily to be taken literal. And when we talk about Vishnu here, he's dreaming all this. So again, it's through the process of seeing, of vision, of creation. It's through basically conceptualizing things, and to get to the point where he is at, which is not in this material universe in reality, because his plane of existence is actually outside of this. Yes, he is able to come into his creation, so to speak, but his plane of existence is also outside of it, his regular loka or world. And it is fascinating too, to encounter some of the stories. And again, the guides have never said that any of these books, whether we're talking the Vedas, the Puranas, certainly when we're talking any of the Abrahamic tradition, just in general, they are exactly right. They have always said, we hope these stories are useful and helpful for you to conceptualize, to kind of settle things in your mind a little bit, and at the same time awaken new questions, because you're never going to get it all when you're in the body. That's the bottom line. But we can build discernment. We can build discernment. And also, even when we're out of the body, even when we leave the body and are in, say, what we would call the astral realm, the fourth density, we still won't necessarily get it all, because that's the other side to this coin of existence. That's the tails to the heads. Heads when we're actually in a physical body, tails when we're in the astral. But the higher self resides outside of this 3D, 4D matrix. And so the you that's outside of that is different than the you that's in it, because the you that is outside of that is the you that contains past lives as well. So all those past lives that are going on, and even also co-lives, because that higher self may have, let's say, fractals of its consciousness incarnated in more than one place at more than one time. So this is where it gets to be a little bit more on the mind-blowing side, especially if we are used to the dominant religious thoughts that are out there, where basically humans are just created to serve. No, you are consciousness itself. And Cindy touched on something which is at the root of the Hindu religion. It's all self-realization. So what is your purpose? It's to discover yourself. That's it. It's just simply to discover you. Discover you.
So with that information, going through life, what's the important thing to do? The important thing to do is take care of you. You are the most important thing. You are that speck of perspective that's out there, that's expanding, and everything that's going on around you is for you. That is something that I think a lot of people have a hard time ingesting, maybe. And it doesn't mean that there's nothing separate of you. There is the illusion of separation. That's a very important illusion. And higher self holds so many keys and so much information to past life. It acts as a gatekeeper. Your higher self is a gatekeeper. It's the part of you that decides, that watches over this life and you in the 3D, and it sees something coming and it says, is this person ready for this information yet? Let's check current life. Let's check past life. Let's check other areas and see if this bit of information is going to affect this person negatively, or is it going to affect them positively, because we want expansion. The hard part is sometimes expansion does require the pain, and that's the part that I don't like. That's the part that really stinks. And the universe says, well, if I didn't bother you, if I didn't nudge you, you never would have moved. And that's true. So many people would have stayed put right in their seat and done nothing if the universe wasn't getting uncomfortable enough to make you expand out of that area. So sometimes these things, when I think about them, they help me understand when something happens in my life that is really, really painful. I look for the lesson quicker now, a lot quicker. I look for the lesson sooner rather than later. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? What do I need to glean from this? Because after all, it is an experience. And when you're 80, 85 years old, looking back, it's all in a blink of an eye. And one really beautiful thing about this life is you do get to take this entire life with you. When you leave the body, you take the entire life with you. I like that.
Yes, so you could revisit any point in time and completely experience it. And again, if you wanted to, you could play it back and try different outcomes, try different routes that you may have tortured yourself with. Maybe I should have done this, or I wish I had done that. Well, you could go back and see how it would have played out. When you look at these worlds, you see over here, it's interesting that they give the number 33 million, realm of the 33 million demigods and demons. Wait a minute, this is in a higher plane of existence. How could it have demonic entities? Again, it's part of the manifest universe to have the yin and the yang, because it does give us learning experiences and choices, as well as initiate lines of energy and movement. And then going beyond that, you have Svargaloka, Indraloka, the heavenly planets. And then beyond that, we see over here Janaloka and the seven sages, the rishis, the wise men, again, through whom it is said the Vedas are channeled. And then at the top, you have Brahma's abode. Brahma, the creator of this universe that, again, is born through Vishnu into this material universe and then organizes the structure of this universe. And again, these are taken to be analogies. They're just basically visualizations, conceptualizations for you if they resonate, but to give you an idea. And you see all these different heavenly planes of existence. These are planes of existence. So think in terms of like all we can see. And, obviously there is the law of cause and effect in this reality, or that of karma. So if we want to move upwards, then we are holding a heart-centered, love and compassion-centered reality in ourselves, and trying to help others come to that discovery. But each soul is a unique fractal off of the one source. And again, there is one source. Now, if we have Vishnu as the creator of this universe, then there's other creators of other universes. And yet there is one source beyond all of this. And so we see, you could see that biblical line, in my Father's house there are many mansions. Yeah, there's all these different planes of existence. And it is, again, for eternal consciousness to choose where to reside. And again, we choose that through how we act and react to everything around us.
Mm-hmm. Reaction is really important. It's like, where are you? Which side do you want to be on? I mean, some people choose to be in the dark. Some people choose to create in the dark, and some people choose to create in the light. But the truth is we need all of it. We need all the higher frequencies. We need all the lower frequencies. So you can't, to me, I mean, I can't look at frequencies and say one is less important than the other, because I see how they work together and how they bring things into creation and how they get people thinking and finding solutions and propelling life forward. So it's all very, very necessary. It's just for you, individual you. What did you decide to do?
Absolutely. So, again, the expansiveness of all these different realms, the numbers that they give to just describe how vast these are just basically ways of, again, saying that consciousness itself has quite a ride ahead of it, and also in many cases behind it. I did think it was really, really interesting that they also give a story in which Vishnu literally sends beings to come and get a sage, a wise man, a holy man, somebody that was leading an exemplary life. And it was very, very interesting that who wasn't transporting this sage to, say, Krishna's world, but to Vishnu's own world in the Bhagavata Purana story. So it talks about these beings coming, and strange beings coming and landing in a strange vehicle, which again sounds like it's made out of plasma when you look at the story. And what they have to do is literally translate the sage into a new body. And again, you can see where in the Bible, where it talks about what many take to be the rapture, lo, I will tell you a secret, we shall not all die, but we shall all be changed, again, the last trumpet and everything. So there are some allusions to truths, even hidden in the Abrahamic tradition, to some possible realities. And we know in Ascension that when Earth is in a 5D state, we're not going to have the same 3D bodies because, again, it's at a different frequency. So we if we had the same body as the Earth goes up into that higher frequency, we wouldn't be able to perceive it.
Well, something is going to change, that's for sure. It's not, the rules are not going to be the same. Manifestation is not going to be the same. Manifestation is going to be much faster. People are going to be able to speak with one another in peace and in harmony. And right now in this 3D world, that's just not happening. That's not happening. I mean, we have everything we need to function in a higher realm. What I see is people are just not ready for it yet. So many people are still hung up on the minutia of, leadership and having to have a savior. And I'm not insulting anyone. I'm just saying in the 5D, everyone is more in harmony with the understanding, and there's balance in everything between us and between nature. And I just don't see that in humanity now. And I don't know how long it's going to be before we get there, but I know that we will get there because I've seen it. So I do believe people on an individual basis can have like a 5D state of mind, absolutely, and have harmony and be at peace. So to me, those are the very first baby steps of getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. If again, this shield, which is shielding the rays of the sun, was removed, then the energy that would come in would start to transform the entirety of the planet very, very quickly. And yet, on the individual side of things, just to give you again the story of my own mother personally, who died in 2020, in January 2020, she passed on, and she was again 90 years old, almost 91. She took 2 years to think about what she was going to do. She was leaning towards taking another incarnation, and again, expanding on this last life in a certain manner. She was at, and this is all information that Cindy was able to consciously, directly, without going into totally being asleep, channel. So she decided that she was going up to 5D. So she left this realm and merged back up into the fifth density, where she's very, very different person from who she was as my mother. She was just a wonderful soul, but in so many ways, a very, very simple soul, having a very, very simple experience. And that was totally intentional, because on the fifth density, she's a much, much higher status, I guess you would say, a more important person than she was in this life to more people than she was in this life. Although she had many friends and family and loved ones, everybody loved her. She was a real sweet, loving, compassionate person. Both my parents were. I was blessed to have incredible parents that were nothing but always very, very patient and compassionate. And yet it took her 2 years on the other side to make that decision. And she basically changed her mind and decided not to take another incarnation into this density at this point in time. So again, it's an individual decision and an individual choice. The law of karma might have some effect on the situation that you go into. But from that point of view, she ascended into 5D just at the end of that life, and that was still in the Kali Yuga. So, again, I do think it's all about the individual soul, the jiva, or just unit of consciousness, if you like, whichever term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's like someone who's a CEO and they have a really powerful position and a lot of stress and pressure, and they just want to put on a hat and sunglasses and go do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. And so can we ascend to 5D? Yeah, of course. But here's the catch. If we get caught up in the lower frequencies, if we lose track or never really even discovered who we are, if we are in a state of terror, abject horror when we're dying, or if it's so sudden and we really didn't cultivate the spiritual side of things, that we don't even necessarily understand we're dead. There's all those things do happen. We've had many direct run-ins ourselves with what you would call ghosts that do hauntings, quote unquote. And reality, often it's because of trauma, very, very sudden trauma, that they're stuck for a while. It's not eternity. They're not stuck for all eternity, but they are stuck for a while, and they have to find their way. One soul that was tortured in war that we know is only now, and this is like 35 years later, only now starting to find its way to do a normal life review 35 of our Earth years after leaving the physical body. Yet, when I look at, say, my mother, she went and did a review right away. She pretty much, and what do we see her doing? She was just doing the things that made her comfortable, because her consciousness recreated this world on the 4D side, and she was just mostly just visualizing herself in her apartment doing puzzles and doing the things that she liked in a way to take time to process. And so that is kind of the normal order of things. Yes, the dark matrix that's in place wants to try to capture people into a lower frequency, and they also give you these religious ideas, these dogmas that involve, eternal torment and punishment, because they want to keep you in the same frequency range where they are, where they can again try to utilize you as an energy resource. The key is moving your own personal frequency higher. So again, if you're listening to things like death metal all the time, that's going to, number one, stimulate all the cortisol in your body to be constantly shooting out, bringing you into fight or flight, which is going to impede your health in a negative way. Where you listen to some of the beautiful ambient music, positive music, mantras, all sorts of things out there, like the music of David Premal or Snatam Kaur, or Ito and Joe, or so many other high vibe, high frequency music out there that will lift your spirit up. Just doing nothing, just in the background alone, it could have a positive effect on lifting your energies and frequencies up. And then, of course, if you are combining that with mind, body, breath practice, like yoga, and not just a hatha yoga that releases some tensions, but really be mindful of where the stress is. Breathe into the area and let it go. And just be. We don't simply be enough in this world. We get caught up too much with doing and not enough being to really notice what's going on in ourselves.
Right. We are human beings, not human doings. But if you're looking to change your circumstances and you are ready and you're truly ready and higher self is ready, these are the things that you can do to change your frequency. Sometimes in life, and this seems really horrible, but it's hard to know exactly what you are supposed to go through, because I was in some really, really, really horrible situations in my life, and I didn't choose to stay. I don't feel like I chose to stay, but I was stuck. And there's things that I had to attend to, and I hated it, and there was like a lot of neglect. There was a lot of trauma, and I went through it, 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 and finally I come out the other side. Do I look back and regret it? I don't, because I'm able to connect with so many people now who have gone through the trauma, who have gone through things in life that are probably unmentionable to most other people, and other people wouldn't even understand for a second. I can connect to those people now. And had I not gone through that, I wouldn't be able to connect to them now. So that's a really tough one sometimes. Sometimes we're supposed to go through these things. And once we go through them, then we can see the bigger picture. But if you're in a bad situation and you feel ready, you're ready to change things, this is how you change it: through the mantras, through the meditation, through the high vibes, through, David Premal. We absolutely love her. And we've worked with some absolutely beautiful souls who have been through hell and torment and trauma, who are coming out the other side now. And I tell you, there is nothing more beautiful.
Absolutely. So I hope you guys got something out of this. Thank you for being part of the family and being on this ride with us. Again, everything goes up on Patreon. Make sure you subscribe to all the channels, though. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.